Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles, where me and Chris watch movies. Boy,
There's
that
another
tongue
layer of
still
joke in that,
slaps.
Tanner.
Oh, there
Still
is?
slaps. Every time. Well, they mean this whole franchise is about milk chocolate. I feel like we have to find a way to get that in there.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. So anyway, keep your brains thinking. Maybe next week we'll have it figured out. We got one more week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, next week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, welcome to the show. This is the podcast where we watch every movie in a franchise. We play the games, read the books, and we talk about how they are milked for all they're worth. And, talk about the cash cow machine of each franchise. Sound about right?
That's right. That sounds perfect, yeah. And right now we're working our way through Willy Wonka and Charlie Bucket and their chocolate factory. Last week we watched the original version with Gene Wilder, and this week we watched the Johnny Depp version. And I'm very excited to hear what you think about this movie, Tanner.
Yeah, Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, of course, the classic combo there.
Yep.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Helena Bonham Carter and Danny Elfman, they brought all their friends.
I know.
Yeah,
classic. Really, Burton's a pretty good fit for a movie like this, or a book like that, at least.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, just like in theory, you know what I mean? I do think he tends to do the same stuff over and over again, but
sure. But it kind of fits with this little world.
Just the dark kind of, but also fun and playful. You know, he's got that perfect balance.
Dark, but also fun and playful. I need to put that on my Bumble profile or something.
Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. Yeah. Before we get into the new movie, how are you doing, buddy? What's new?
Yeah, let's nothing. Nothing is new. I'm trying to rack my brain with new stuff. I've been working a lot. And just been very busy with that.
Love it.
Watched a great bad movie this week called The Snowman. And that was pretty much the only exciting part of my week. Besides working my ass off. But what about you? What's new with you?
Good, man. Yeah. I found out this week that the apartment building that I live in has a turco. It's like a steam room, and nobody ever uses it. So I used it. I think went down there like 4 times this week.
What?
So I'm like permanently finger wrinkled, and I'm living my best life. You
have a steam room?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I feel like I won the lottery. That's good. And also, I only have like 2 days left with students at my job before a little Christmas break. So, life's good right now. Life's good.
Do you have any other amenities? Do you have like a swimming pool in there? What else do you have?
We also have a small swimming pool, yes.
Is that true?
You can kind of go back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Like hot, cold.
You really do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. That's my dream combo. Maybe next year, yeah.
Yeah.
I do like getting hot and like jumping in cold water. You know the plunge thing.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty nice. Also, Chris, I'm jealous that you always have a nice little tidbit ready for your week. Like you have something. I don't know if you pre-planned it or not, but I'm always just like, I got nothing going on. I haven't thought about it.
Ask me, so I always try to like file it on the way. So I was down there.
I should do that.
Steam, steaming up my brain, steaming up, and that one came to me. I was like, I need to share this. This is it's a good moment here.
Yeah, like what can I talk about? While you're in the steam room? Oh wait, talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's something more entertaining I could give you, but I need to think of that more. Yeah,
that's the best thing about doing this every week. You got another chance every week.
We learn something every week. Absolutely. Right. I think I'm gonna go to IHOP every day this week. That's my goal.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Every Wonka
I hope you start dressing more and more as Willy Wonka each time you go. Like the purple pea coat on day 3, day 4 is the top hat. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you think
Yeah.
people are dressing up to go get the Wonka pancakes?
Oh, that's a great question.
I bet somebody has done it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people like to cosplay these days, so I guarantee.
And if you own a purple blazer, like this is the only time you get to wear it, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you own a purple blazer and I just don't know about it, Tanner?
I don't. No.
Okay.
I was just thinking. I went to a wedding last summer and I had to wear like a forest green, suit, or like the colors were like purple, green, midnight, indigo, like all these weird colors.
Yeah.
And not weird, but just kind of like off kilter or a little bit different. And my undershirt was purple, so I had like a Joker thing going on.
Okay.
It's
and then
inverse
you
Willy
also
Wonka.
only go out with the Joker like lipstick painted on too, right?
Yes.
You're still doing that?
Full clown makeup tattooed on my face.
Great. I love it.
You may have seen me on TikTok. Yeah, Chris, welcome to the show. We're watching this franchise because we are getting ready for the much anticipated Wonka movie that comes out in a few days, which we're going to go see and talk about next time. Before we do that, let's go back to last week and talk about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971.
That's right. Part of this show, what we like to do every week is we put out a survey to go along with each episode. It's just some little jokes and some little bits. And we ask for you guys to kind of play along and, make some jokes with us. And we read the ones that we like on the show. And that's what we're doing here with the original Gene Wilder Wonka movie from the 70s.
Yeah. We have been reaching out to Reddit for, different franchise subreddits and getting responses from people. Unfortunately, there is no Wonka subreddit specifically. And it's only me and you this time.
Can you imagine if there was?
Well, there's a subreddit for everything else.
I guess you're right.
Maybe after this new movie comes out, it'll have its own, once it's officially a franchise. There might be a Roald Dahl subreddit I just thought of. Might try that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just me and you again this week, back to square one.
Love it.
Did reach out to there is a subreddit called Grandpa Joe Hate that I found. And I tried to post it on there. We got some listens because I was like, hey, there's a part where I talk shit about Joe. Remember my little outburst about Grandpa Joe?
I do.
Yeah, apparently they feel the same way, that he's kind of a lazy, good-for-nothing swindler. And it's just a lot of memes, and it's very active, which I was surprised about. There's a lot of people on there still just posting memes about Joe constantly. So I don't know if it was a recent joke and then it just kind of took off. But that exists, and but again, nobody took the survey from that. Either way, here we are with our favorite line from the first movie here. Favorite line, we got a tie. There's a line where he drops a shoe inside of a candy vat, and he says, "This gives it a little kick," which I like. And then we have so much time and so little to do. Strike that, reverse it. Which I feel like Johnny Depp may have quoted once or twice, but the actual way, is that right? Do you remember that?
We have so much to do and so little time, something like that?
He said it the actual right way. Yeah.
Okay. It's so much funnier that way.
Of course. It's Willy Wonka. And then we asked what are the favorite Wonka Factory set pieces. Two of the favorites here, the Chocolate River and the fizzy water that makes you fly.
The fizzy water. Great.
I like that a lot, yeah. I remember that most from when I was a child.
Okay. Them floating up and burping their way back down?
And burping down,
Yeah.
I like that part.
I think as a kid, too, it would be awesome to have that. To be able to float up like that? Oh, man.
And, like, flying was always kind of a, pick your favorite superpower when people
Sure, yeah.
Flying would always be one that I'd choose. Next question, we got most satisfying child elimination. We got a tie between Augustus Gloop going through the river tube and Violet Beauregard turning into a blueberry.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't say satisfying with Violet, but I voted for that because I just like her turning into a giant blueberry. I think it's, she was by far the least annoying of the people, but still fun to watch her turn blue.
Dude. Yeah.
I
like the Augustus Gloop one because it's, I don't know, like the first time I watched it, it kind of comes out of, it surprises you. You know what I mean? That this is how they treat these children.
Yeah.
And,
he's getting his hands in this chocolate, just eating like crazy.
Yeah. It's the perfect comeuppance for a glutton.
Yep.
Yeah.
Favorite song of the movie? We got another tie between the Oompa Loompa songs and Pure Imagination. Been singing it all week.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Wonka Mania scene? These were the little bits where they had showed around the world where people are just dying to get these golden tickets. And the one we both liked here was the woman who was asked to pay a ransom in Wonka bars to save her husband, and she had to think about it.
Yeah. And I'm glad that made it onto the survey because they didn't do that at all in this movie. The Johnny Depp one does not have any Wonkamania stuff like that.
Is there anything in the book? I guess you can say.
Oh man, let me think about that. We'll talk about it when we get to it in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Worst part of being Charlie Bucket. Another tie. Eating cabbage water for dinner, and the grandparents haven't left the bed in 20 years and don't contribute. So that's the Grandpa Joe hate comes from that. Favorite Wonka candy name? We got a Scrumdiddlyumptious bar and an Everlasting Gobstopper.
Both great choices.
And then we asked you guys to create names for Wonka candy. So we got a Stonk Griddlewitch drops, Hoompa Stoompa bits, Dum Dum Doodle bars, and
I think that last one could actually be your Dum Dum Doodle bar. That could be a candy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so could this one. Titta tantalizing toffee.
Titta tantalizing. Yep.
Titta tantalizing toffee.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. This part, I found these questions to be a lot of fun. The movie gave us Oompa Land creatures called, or is it Loompa Land? I think it's Loompa Land creatures called Wangdoodles, Hornswogglers, Snozwangers, and Vermicious Canids. Come up with another creature name. We got Scrum Scratchers, Humdingers, Ploopsnasters, Pong Rubberts, Limp Trousers, and Fung Doobies.
Still laughing about Ploopsnasters.
I like Scrum Snatchers, Fung Doobies. We got.
I'm excited to hear you read the ones that you didn't write.
Zimini Zimonis and Welchifying Weltingies.
Mm-hmm.
Did I pronounce
that
right?
Yeah.
Welchifying Weltingies.
I think the first one was supposed to be Zimini Zimonis.
Zimini Zimonis. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love making gibberish words, so that was fun. And then we asked you to caption the condescending Wonka meme. Make a meme. Oh, you like Timothy Chalamet, huh? Tell me again why your daddy doesn't love you. This is Gene Wilder saying all this. You prefer Johnny Depp over me? Must be nice being that free of thought. Oh, you're on TikTok? Tell me more. That's good. I was envisioning it from the mouth of Gene Wilder himself.
With that smug little face on his face.
Like, oh, you like these performances more than me? Fuck that. And then rate Willy Wonka 5 out of 5, 100%.
Absolutely.
It's a great
There was
movie.
no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Now let's shift into Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and see if that can get a 5 out of 5 from us, Chris.
Absolutely.
What do you say?
I don't know that it's going to get a 5 out of 5 from me, but I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Definitely. So yeah, we watched is it a remake, retelling? It's another adaptation, reimagining.
Yeah,
because it's not. It's based on a book. They're both based on a book, so it's not really a remake of the movie. It's just another, reimagining of the book.
Yeah, come on into a world of pure imagination, Tanner.
Not in this one, though.
Not in this one, though.
Fuck those songs.
Yeah.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is the actual name of the book we talked about. They changed the title last week to sell Wonka bars.
Yep.
But this is actually the name of it. It's 2005 it came out, and it's directed by Tim Burton. And then we got John Depp, Johnny Depp as
John Depp, as everyone calls him.
As Wonka himself. So yeah, we got like you mentioned earlier, we got Danny Elfman doing the music along with Tim Burton directing. Frequent collaborators here. Tim Burton always puts the same people in his movies, including his wife, Helena Bonham Carter.
Yep.
Was that
who's in this?
Carter?
Who's in this movie as well? Yeah, Bonham Carter.
She's not in it that much, but she is in it. And then, of course, Deep Roy as the Oompa Loompas, which we'll talk more about. All right. Where do you want to start in this movie, Chris?
Well, first off, I just want to point out that there's someone named Depp and someone named Deep in this movie, and I think that's a neat thing. But we should probably start at the beginning of the movie. It's a neat thing, right?
Oh, that's very neat.
It's more than nothing. But maybe less than something. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But this movie starts kind of same as the last one. But we get a nice fun intro at the beginning with the chocolate bars kind of being wrapped while the credits roll. And then
all CGI.
All CGI, which hasn't aged great, but I did think that scene was pretty fun. The chocolate bars being like lifted up and dropped with parachutes and being wrapped.
And they're putting the golden tickets at the end into the bars.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of, a lot of this recap, doing these back to back, I think is going to be interesting because a lot of the beats from this movie are exactly the same as the last one, right? So the way that this starts is with, poor Charlie Bucket. His dad works at a toothpaste factory, screwing on.
That.
Yes. That is from the book. I can vouch for that this week. But he's screwing on his job is to screw on the lids of the toothpaste tubes. The lid screwer on her. And he brings Charlie home the melted caps to build a little fort at his house.
Little deformed pieces. Yeah, that he would be trash. Charlie turns into beautiful art.
Mm-hmm. And he's made a huge recreation of the Wonka chocolate factory out of these little caps.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I know we want to save the milk for the end, but anytime you see something that's like a change from the book to this movie or versus the old movie, you go ahead and say it. So we get, we kind of get,
okay.
That'd be a good way to do this recap. That makes it stand out.
Sure.
Just, don't be afraid to say, save it all for the end.
Great.
Yes. Anyway, so he works at the toothpaste factory.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more.
So he's working at the toothpaste factory, but unfortunately he makes a pittance. So his family can only afford cabbage soup or hot cabbage water, cabbage soup.
Cabbage water, I think.
Is that what they call it? Cabbage water? They don't even call it soup.
In the first movie, it's just cabbage water. Yeah.
Yeah. There were a couple funny scenes. I liked Helena Bonham Carter just chopping cabbage in the back of a couple of these scenes when they're in the house.
He brings home more cabbage. He's like, well, I guess more cabbage is better than nothing. Or something.
Exactly. Well, what goes with cabbage is more cabbage, they say at one point. So same as in the first one, we meet all the grandparents who are living in a very Tim Burton house. It's like leaning over, about to tip over.
I did love that style. Yeah.
Yeah.
The presentation of that house completely slanted.
Yeah. And that's part of it, right? Like you bring in Tim Burton and all of Tim Burton's friends and you get a Tim Burton version of this movie. And I thought a lot of the little parts of that, I really liked what he brought to the visual style of this movie.
Yeah.
So they're in their little house and Grandpa Joe and the three other kind of freeloading old folk in the bed are telling Charlie stories, and so we hear about Willy Wonka. In this movie, this is the only version where Grandpa Joe actually worked at the factory, so he had met Willy Wonka back in the olden days. But once again, the spies had infiltrated the factory, and they were stealing all of Willy Wonka's good ideas. So he fired everyone and shut down the factory.
I like this flashback. It shows him like working for Wonka, and he's an old man in the flashback.
Yeah.
But there's a couple like cool inventions. The bird egg candy, where a little bird hatches in his mouth. And then they talk about chocolate ice cream that doesn't melt, which I thought was cool. There's also, they mentioned that this factory is going to be 50 times bigger than any factory ever, like the factory that Wonka plans to build.
Yeah, huge factory.
50 times bigger.
Yeah.
That can't be right.
He's going to make that much chocolate, Tanner. Don't ask questions.
I can't remember where they're just telling more stories and more stories. There's one point where it kind of cuts out because it includes them where he met his wife, I think, right? And they're like kissing in the story, and he's like, "Grandpa, don't make it gross," something like that. And then it goes into another story.
I don't remember that. That sounds like something from The Princess Bride to me. But yeah.
Oh, it's very similar. Yeah, very similar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there it goes into another story about how Wonka, or maybe this happened after the thing fell. He shut down the factory the first time. He goes to India, and an Indian prince wanted a chocolate palace.
Yes.
Completely made out of chocolate. And so he gets Wonka to build him this massive chocolate palace, and he says, "You better eat it quickly." And he's like, "No, I'm going to live in it." But it's India. It gets very hot, and the chocolate palace melts and crashes down. And then he wants another palace even after.
He wants to bring him out to build another one. Yeah. That story was not in the Gene Wilder version, but it was in the book. So that was a nice little addition that they brought over. Cool. But it was fun to watch that tower, that palace melt.
Yeah.
Nice
melting
little
chocolate tower.
Yeah. Something they probably couldn't have animated back in 1971.
Yeah. I guess they talk more about the spies and how they were stealing his recipes, and this is why they shut down the factory the first time.
Yep.
And they're stealing things like large gum bubbles. I wrote that down. Does that make any sense?
Candy bubbles is what they call them, but it does just look like chewing gum, like big.
It's the chewing gum, but it gets like massive. Yeah. And then so that's when you find out again that nobody has left the factory in some time, and no one's seen anyone go in or out, but they're still making candy.
Right.
Where's it go from there?
Well, before we move on there, I wrote down at this point in the movie, I am super impressed. I think it is like the visual stuff that Tim Burton brought is awesome. The changes that they made between the first movie and the second movie to this point in the movie, I think are really strong. And I was thoroughly enjoying myself at this point in the movie. I think the proof of concept is working here. It falls off a little bit for me throughout, but I think they had a good visual style that they picked for this, and it worked really well to this point in the movie for me.
I did think the early family scenes were maybe better than the original.
I thought so too. Yeah. And I liked the little boy. The little boy they got for Charlie was great.
Freddie Highmore. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. So at this point, we get a crew of bicyclists riding out in the snow to put up flyers to announce the contest. The golden tickets will get you into the factory. And then we kind of go through a few more of those scenes of meeting the characters and also kind of checking in with Charlie and his family as they react. So the first character is Augustus Gloop, living in Dusseldorf, Germany. He is still a fat ass, and he still loves chocolate.
Even bigger and fatter than the other one, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he eats part of the ticket piece. That's how he noticed that
Yeah,
he won the ticket.
He didn't recognize the flavor of the piece of ticket that he took a bite of. So we get a quick intro on Augustus Gloop. His dad is a sausage maker, and his mom is also, a gluttonous German woman.
She's a sausage taker. He says that he's going to celebrate by eating more candy. And then we get Veruca Salt again, and she's working for Salt's Nuts. So her dad's business, I guess they gave a title to this time, called Salt's Nuts. And they got the workers working, opening all the packages.
I thought this scene was better too. The factory with all the women like ripping open those chocolate bars, and the woman does find it and tries to hide it. They really built this out compared to the first movie, and I thought it was cool.
Tries to steal it for sure.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, she says, like, "Daddy, I want another pony."
Yeah, not even a thank you for having all these, buying all these chocolate bars, opening them all up, but I want a pony.
At this point, I realized, I think it goes back to the family, and they. One thing I did realize is he has a dad in this movie. Does he have a dad in the book?
He does, and there was a dad in the first movie, but they just didn't give them anything to do in the book or
in the movie.
I think so.
I don't think so, because I did read that they're like,
we didn't want all together. Okay,
we didn't want the dad because we wanted Wonka to maybe be that father figure that he never had, kind of thing. But then in this movie, they're like, no, we wanted the dad because Wonka would be a terrible father. So we wanted to make sure he had that, and
they kind of slot him in as a brother at the end, very much more so than a father figure.
Yeah.
Weird
uncle.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, certainly the toothpaste factory stuff was not in the first book, or not in the first movie. So
I like too that they have all these things about, like, he works at a toothpaste factory, and at one point, when the Wonka sales are going up, the toothpaste sales are also going up because everyone's eating so much candy in the world.
Yeah.
And then Wonka's dad is is a dentist. So all these little kind of
it's a whole sugar world. Yeah.
Yeah, eating so much sugar, and then there's Wonka's birth from a dentist, and he rebelled by making candy. There's some things like that are pretty good in this movie.
Yeah, I thought so too. Let's see, where are we at?
I think we're at Violet, unless there's something else there.
Yeah, I think, so right in here we meet Violet. In the meantime, it's Charlie's birthday, so he gets his chocolate bar for his birthday, and they excitedly open it, hoping that he'll get a ticket, but it's a loser. So Charlie is still waiting, and they're still watching the news every night, watching these horrible children win this contest and find the golden tickets. Do you want to talk about Violet Beauregarde?
Yeah, she's so they actually gave her a thing in this one. I wrote
they
down.
did.
So she's more, annoying or a bad kid, and same with Mike. They gave him more of a negative side. I thought in the first movie. So in this one, what is her thing? I guess she's an overachiever because she's like has all these trophies and is just kind of an arrogant. Maybe arrogance, something like that.
She seemed just too competitive to me. That seemed to be what they were going for. She had all those karate trophies, and it was about winning with her.
Yeah, she's like kicking ass. It starts with her just like doing karate and stuff, and she's got the world chewing gum world record. She's been chewing the same piece of gum for 3 months, which is
disgusting.
So and she
so
puts it
fucking
behind.
gross to think about.
She puts it behind her ear to save it. I assume that's like when she's sleeping, she does that.
Yeah, and she did it in the last movie too, but I gave the last movie a lot more credit, or I gave it a lot more freedom for whimsy. You know what I mean? Just like, that's just like a little thing. But here they really drive home the point that she's been chewing the same piece of gum for 3 months, and that's part of her thing. Yeah.
Whimsy goes a long way. That's a good point.
It does, and they took the whimsy out of this, and I think they could have used some in the middle part.
Yeah, there's a little less whimsy, isn't there?
There is, yeah. In addition to the gum chewing, she's They made her super competitive, and this scene has a couple of funny shots where they're kind of throwaway shots, but it just cuts back to the mom while Violet is talking about her karate and her gum chewing, and the face that the actress has is dynamite. It's really, really funny. They're nice little shots. It made me laugh each time.
So Missy Pyle is her name. She's been in a lot of stuff. She's got a great face. Kind of got that scrunch look to her, you know. Plays a good, like, overbearing mom.
A good Karen. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, if it sounds weird, we're having some recording issues, internet issues. Just so you know, if it sounds a little off on that transition. Where do we go from Violet, though, Chris?
We have one last character to meet, and that is Mike TV. He, I think, is maybe the one that they made the biggest change to this movie. Augustus Gloop is almost exactly the same. Veruca Salt is almost exactly the same. Violet's a little different, but Mike TV, they have made him kind of a foul-mouthed genius. Would you agree with that?
Genius, maybe. Foul-mouthed for sure.
Okay.
He's like a incel, sort of. That's what I was looking at.
But he's also like a cute little 12-year-old boy, but also an incel. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like he'd like kill ants for fun and stuff, but he's he's like from Toy Story. Maybe not that bad.
Sid from Toy Story, you said? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of that. Yeah.
But he's got the playing video games and yelling like die, die, die kind of attitude to him.
Yeah. But he, in this movie, instead of just winning like he did in the first one, he, to quote the movie, he tracked the manufacturing dates, offset by weather, and he used the derivative of the Nikkei index, Nikkei index. So he's a genius, and he basically got the ticket by calculating where the candy bars with the gold tickets needed to be.
So wait, how did he do it? Because I kind of missed all this. At the end they brought that up a little bit too, but
I think it's gibberish, but I could read you those things again.
Say it one more time.
Okay, you ready? He tracked the manufacturing dates, offset by weather, and the derivative of the Nike index.
Okay, that's the whole explanation.
That's the whole explanation. It's a little hand waving, but you're supposed to believe that, like, oh, this dude is like. He's like kind of a genius. He's a genius little boy, and his parents don't really know what to do with him.
Yeah. Okay, I see now. Yeah, because at the end they kind of mentioned that he's like he doesn't really give a shit about chocolate. That's kind of his thing. No. Yeah, he's just like, oh, I just wanted to win because I could. I just wanted to win. That was it.
Yeah. No, he said he only had to buy one chocolate bar because he calculated where this chocolate bar was going to be, and the newscaster asked him, "How did it taste?" And he says, "I don't know. I hate chocolate." So Charlie and his family are pissed because, like, why does this kid get to go to the chocolate factory? He doesn't even want to be there.
Yeah. Let's see. Where are we going from here? I think it's. I wrote that Grandpa goes on a rant at this point. Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, they use the earmuffs thing. I think, right? Is that the scene you're thinking of?
Yeah.
I thought
that was a Mike TV.
Mike TV. Yeah, why does this kid get a win? Our kid's better. Is and I think why he was pissed off. Things in the Charlie Bucket household are not great. Dad loses his job at the toothpaste factory. This was the point in the movie. Go ahead.
This is where they talk about the rise in chocolate led to toothpaste sales, and because of the rise in toothpaste sales, they were able to bring in a automated toothpaste lid screwer honor, whatever you want to call that, which then replaced the Bucket, Mr. Bucket. So he got fired. But
so things are pretty tight in the Bucket household. Just cabbage soup, and things are not looking great. It's also right in here where they announced that the last ticket, the fifth ticket, was found in Russia. Why do you think they changed it from Paraguay, Tanner?
I don't know. They didn't really spend too much time on the fraud thing. It's kind of like in the moment that he finds a $10 bill and he goes to buy a chocolate bar, and he like on the newspaper, just kind of see Rod Ticket, right? Or was
Yeah.
there
It just,
more
I don't
to
know.
it?
Russia just seems like an easier villain. I think that's probably why they changed it, right?
I guess so. Yeah, the other one just kind of doesn't
Yeah.
have that. You're right.
I wonder how many
Yeah,
kids know where Paraguay even is.
I have no idea. I've never even heard of the place.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, so he finds it in the candy shop here. And he gets his golden ticket. So it's the very next bar that he buys. He opens it up right in the chocolate shop and he finds it. He's like, I got the golden ticket, and people start kind of like more realistically than the other one. People try to buy it off of him, which I thought was a great addition. Somebody offers him $50, then the next person immediately offers him $500. But of course not just sell the ticket for $5, and he runs home and tells his family he found the golden ticket. And Good for Nothing Joe gets up and does a yippee. He gets up out of bed
and a stupid dance.
A little clowny little dance. Yeah. But Charlie Bucket is such a good kid. One of several moments where he makes the right moral decision. And he says, I'm not going to do it because honestly, $500 would like change our life. And we could, I could probably slip for way more than that. And honestly, he should have done. He should have just sold it for like $1 million or something.
He would have made lots and lots of money.
There's other Violet or other Veruca Salt type people out there that probably would have paid a lot of money for it. Had Daddy, shell out the cash. But
then the movie's way worse. We need Charlie in that chocolate factory. It's right there in the title,
I wish it just ended right there.
They sell the ticket and continue eating cabbage water. The end.
Yeah, because they just like cabbage water a lot.
Yeah, they're hooked on it, man.
But one of the grandparents, the other grandpa, I believe, tells him that there's plenty of money in the world, but there's only 5 golden tickets. You have to take this opportunity. Yeah. So he does it. And again, the big opening is tomorrow, the next day. And here we go. We're going to the factory.
We're going to the factory. And Grandpa Joe gets to go back because he used to work there. I think that added a little more reason for him to go, instead of mom or dad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So they show up the next day. We re-meet all the characters, Mike TV and Veruca Salt and Gloop and the whole cast. And we're greeted at the door by a creepy animatronic, like Chuck E. Cheese style band. There's like little puppets going around doing like a little song and dance. It's very eerie. It's very Tim Burton. And it sets itself on fire by the end. It's like,
it's like a little
not very well put together, like kind of a shitty
Chuck E.
little
Cheese
robot
style thing.
Chuck E. Cheese thing. Yeah.
Veruca at 9:59 is like, Daddy, why? I want to get in now. Make time go faster. But
that child is the worst. Yeah,
she's so bad. And she actually looked a lot like the original Veruca Salt, did she not? Like almost exactly like her.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Like exactly. And did you mention that the puppets caught on fire?
Briefly. Yeah. Go ahead though.
No, yeah, it's just the little intro thing. A Wonka chair comes out in the middle. It's supposed to be like Wonka should be rising out of the middle. Everything catches on fire and goes poorly. And then Willy Wonka shows up behind them and is watching the show and claps. And
yeah, he can't see the show from the chair in the middle of the stage. Why would he be up there?
Aren't you supposed to be up there? He's like, well, then I can see the show.
Yeah.
So here he is. It's John Depp as Willy Wonka, wearing these massive goggle sunglass things.
Yep.
And we get how are we going to describe? How would you describe this character?
Oh man, I've been trying to think about that because this is this is the big change in this movie, right? Is the lead actor. And I
I
didn't
think, yeah, this was
right?
the divisive. This was the divisive part of this movie, from what I remember, is his portrayal, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which
Um
I got some
should we
things to
talk
say
about that
about it.
now, or should we save it for a little later in
Well,
the,
I just
movie?
wanted to talk about his appearance, I guess. You know, you get
Yes.
the top hat and the cane and the overcoat and all that. He's
And then
kind of like,
he's got a weird like bob haircut that's like
yeah,
tucked down tight over his ears, and really pale skin. They went full Tim Burton and made him look like, you know, Edward Scissorhands or Nightmare Before Christmas guy. But he's so gaunt in this movie.
he's gaunt, and he's kind of got like a voice, like he's kind of like a little bit more like, oh, hi, how are you today?
Yeah.
Like a little bit higher of his pitch, kind of like, I'm not whimsical, but I don't know the right word.
He based his Jack Sparrow impression on Mick Jagger, or on Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. And I feel like he just was like, okay, eccentric, pale man who lures children into a chocolate factory. I'm just going to do a Michael Jackson thing.
I thought Michael Jackson as well during that.
Jackson.
I 100% think that it was kind of a Michael Jackson thing.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know that I cared for his performance in this movie, but I don't want to dwell on it too much. What did you think of him?
Well, I was thinking about this just like when I was driving to get groceries this morning. I think that he completely disappears into this role in the way that like I do. He doesn't seem like Johnny Depp to me, which is a rare thing for Johnny Depp.
Okay.
Like he doesn't. I do think he kind of disappears into it because it's so different. And if he puts on glasses, it's like doesn't even feel like Johnny Depp, which I'll give him props for. And I think that there's a lot of big swings in this movie, and that's one of them.
There are
which I also,
yes. Mm-hmm.
which I also give props for. But at the end of the day, it's just not as good. I don't love it. You know what I mean? But yeah. I do think he disappears into it, which is a good thing for a character, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Did you have trouble separating him from, like, did you see Johnny Depp, or was it?
I don't know if I saw Johnny Depp. But I don't know. I think the voice that he did with it was really distracting to me at a couple points in here. I mean, his opening line was, "Good morning, starshine, the earth says hello." Do you know what that's from, or is that a thing?
I have no idea.
Like, they just made him so weird. And not like in the first movie, they made him weird where you root for him and he's got this like sarcastic edge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this one, he's like, I don't know. He's not maybe he's more vulnerable. They might have made the character that way, but like, it's not.
Are you doing something with your mic different real quick?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Are you having a hard time hearing me? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like an angle thing or something.
Okay, gotcha.
No, it sounds like
lots of tech problems today, Tanner. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, I don't know, like because you're recording in your phone, right?
On my iPad, but yeah.
I think it's an angle thing, just depending on where your mouth versus the thing is. But let's see. Yeah, I don't know what that quote is from. Good morning, sunshine. Yeah, he's very. I don't even know if creepy, but they made him like childlike, almost like he was like stunted as a child, you know, that kind of thing. So that's why I think Michael Jackson is actually perfect.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the Mick Jagger thing, but that's a very good. Mick Jagger or Keith Richards?
Keith Richards, yeah.
But that's a perfect thing. I bet you, I would bet that you're onto something there.
You know, everybody loved his Jack Sparrow, and it worked really well just basing it on a rock star. I bet he just looked for a different eccentric rock star. I don't know, or maybe I'm wrong. But it was very Michael Jackson-y by the end of this movie to me.
Yeah, no, I get that exactly like that. Even just like the way they made the character with the daddy issues and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then he missed his childhood, so he still acts super childish and all that. And he's a reclusive genius, just like Michael Jackson, you know, like lots of similarities.
That's his Neverland Ranch.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're totally right.
All coming together.
Did he spend any nights with Charlie? Do you know? in bed.
I do not care to weigh in on that aspect of the Michael Jackson comparison.
They're just sleepovers. Come on.
I mean, at the end of the movie, he does try to separate Charlie from his family and have him come live with him, which is exactly what R. Kelly did.
Oh my god!
Not, just
well,
saying.
The R. Kelly stuff came out way after 2005, right?
Also
Pretty sure.
True. Also true. Yeah.
Anyway, I love that comparison. I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
Let's see. So that they're inside they go inside the factory now.
Yeah, we're in the chocolate factory. We made it.
We finally made it. Let's see. What happens here?
Well, now that we're in, I feel like we immediately have to go back to talking about Johnny Depp, because this is where we first see his daddy issues, right?
Yeah.
So this is like Willy Wonka therapy compared to the first movie, because we get flashbacks. He can't say mom and dad because he has such a strange relationship with his idea of his father.
Yeah, like a vomiting reaction to the word parents or mom and dad. Yeah.
Yeah. And do we get a flashback here, or is it later on? I think it's later on, right? But he clearly has some hang-ups about his dad. Yeah, they
come in and they're kind of talking to him, and he tells them that they can just lay their coats anywhere. They just drop their coats on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't even know. Do we get a flashback here?
I don't think we do. I think it's later on. But they drop their coats. He has like a little moment where he kind of like snaps out and snaps back into the conversation with everybody. So everybody on the tour is now giving him these weird looks, right? Like they think he's kind of a crazy, because that's what they've set him up as. And I think we're straight into the chocolate room.
Yep, straight in the chocolate room. And he says, again, everything is edible, including me, but that would be cannibalism. But you get the same kind of things. This was a kind of a cool set, a very Tim Burton-y set. In here,
they nailed the chocolate room.
Yeah, and they go to town eating a bunch of shit. They got Augustus Gloop grazing like a cow, eating the grass and just just ravaging the entire room.
Yeah.
And you get some more
Mike TV. I think we get a good shot here of him just like going on full rage mode. He's just breaking things.
He's just breaking things.
Yeah.
And you get a flashback here. So they see an Oompa Loompa, which, another divisive thing in this movie, I think, are the Oompa Loompas. And I forget if they show them right away. It's just this tiny little man, basically. It's very tiny, shrunk it, not just like a little person, but like they actually like CGI'd it smaller. And you get a flashback to Loompa Land, and it's Willy Wonka like hacking through the jungle, and trying to find. It says he's trying to find new flavors for his candies, and he's killing snozwogglers and wang doodles and doobie dadas,
droopy poopies, yeah,
droopy poopies. And he finds the Oompa Loompas, and they're like a tribal society, right? And they're like eating bugs and feeding him bugs that are really disgusting. And green slime, and Johnny Depp, or Willy Wonka, finds out that they love cocoa beans, which obviously makes chocolate. So they kind of worship these beans, and they only find like a couple a year. But he's like, hey, you can come live with me and work for me, and I'll pay you in cocoa beans. So that's what
Seems
they do.
Like this factory needs a union. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's straight up slavery, isn't it?
Not gonna lie. This part was interesting to me because like that was from the book. Like they're like
really?
tribal people with like tribal like brass skirts and shit in the book too. But in both the book and the last movie, Willy Wonka just explains this, so you're not sure if he's fucking with you.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. You don't really believe him in the first movie. You're like, what is this man talking about? This nonsense with horndoodles and schnogwagglers or whatever, But in this one, they decide to go to Loompa Land. Like they show you all these things, like it's part of the
Yeah,
It's like it's actually part of
it
his history, and
is.
it's not up to you as a viewer to decide if he's lying or embellishing or whatever. You know what I
Or
mean?
yeah, just being Wonka. You don't know
Yeah,
whether to trust or like him right off the bat.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't know, but
he
that I point to that as like one of the things where I think it kind of the changes they made. I think visually are really great, but it does lose a little bit of the whimsy when you actually go to this place instead of him making up these silly words. Like you're watching him kill these
yeah.
animals, right, and like mash up the green caterpillars and stuff. Like all that stuff is like kind of gross and Burton-y, but not very whimsical.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
literal. Like you're getting the
yeah,
literal. Like this is what happened, rather than like, oh, is this guy like an untrustworthy narrator, or is he like a, you know what I mean?
totally.
Um,
Yeah, that's exactly
yeah,
it. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So,
But
um,
yeah, he mentions that the Oompas are quite mischievous. But so they're just working. The Oompas are, and you get Gloop grazing again, and he is eating out of the chocolate river yet again.
mhm.
Falls in the river, same as the first movie. And Wonka, I don't know if he calls over. He kind of tells him, I don't want him in there. Get him out of there. And then the tube comes in and sucks up all the chocolate, sucks up Augustus Gloop yet again.
Yep.
But then he gets stuck in there, and what happens here? The Oompa Loompas come out, right?
Yeah, so we get our first Oompa Loompa song. So this movie, like one of the big differences for me, this isn't a musical in the same way the first one was, where like
Yeah.
characters will break into song, which also makes this movie a little more grounded and realistic than the first one. So I'm
Yeah.
sure they did that on purpose, but they did keep the Oompa Loompa song. So when each child exits the movie, they have like a pretty ridiculous Oompa Loompa song. Would you agree?
Yeah, and they're all in like its own style. There's a different
Yes.
style for each song.
Yes.
Um, and this one, I guess, was supposed to be like a Bollywood kind of style, from what I read.
Oh, that's how he did it. Okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm thinking to the other ones too because they are very different each one.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
and yeah, this is about Augustus Gloop. How would you? I don't know about this music. What do you think?
it
This is
is
a thing.
so
So, yeah, it's a bunch of the Oompa Loompas are played by a Deep Roy. It's like this Indian man who they make really small. He might be small already, but he's in a lot of movies playing like smaller people.
yeah,
He's in like Star Trek. He's in Neverending Story. He's in a lot of things. But he is every Oompa Loompa in this movie.
yeah.
And they just recreate him, and he's doing a whole dance and song. Yeah, it's very bizarre.
It is quite strange. Yes.
Those two things were the things that turned me off when I first saw this movie.
Did it hit you any different this go around?
I think I liked the music a little bit more just because it's so freaking weird. And I did read that the lyrics are from the books in some way, right?
He took I was going to talk about this at the end. I finished the book this week, and the Oompa Loompa songs are way longer than they were in the first movie, and they're way meaner. Like they call kids nincompoops and idiots, and like they're like really mean songs in the book, talking about directly like this kid's a little shit, like this kid's a little shit. And so they took some of the lyrics from that. It didn't seem one-to-one to me. But Danny Elfman clearly like used those as like a starting point to make these songs. But I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I like Danny Elfman. My dad would always listen to this Oingo Boingo album, which is the band that Danny Elfman started out in, and it is like they just let him go full Danny Elfman on these songs, like all the tempo changes and all the weird little like percussive things. It's like I don't know. I enjoyed the music. I don't know that it's a perfect fit, but like. This is what you're going to get with Tim Burton is Danny Elfman going full Danny Elfman, and I don't know they went for it with this stuff like you were talking before. These are big swings that they're taking here, and they're staying true to the people in those positions. Like this is a Tim Burton with Danny Elfman musical number.
Yeah, which is Danny Elfman I would say is like the second most famous. Composer in movies, right? Besides John Williams.
John Williams, yeah.
And I just think after I was looking at what all he's done, and it's pretty much all like Tim Burton stuff that I recognize it from, but it's all it's a lot of the same kind of music, right? Where it's just kind of like energetic, forward moving, like frenetic, adventure-y, weird. Does that sound about right?
Oh, a little spooky, right? That's Tim Burton's kind of style too, and I think Danny Elfman is good with that
kind of thing, kind of feeling where it's like this bump, 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 and that makes any sense. And honestly, I don't love it anymore. Like I think nothing against Oingo Boingo because I need to listen to that this week, but
that I
was
gave
thinking
Tanner
about
homework this week. Yeah,
the music for Batman and Edward Scissorhands, all these movies where it's a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same feeling. I feel like his songs don't have like that classic, distinguishing sound like a lot of John Williams songs where they're just so unique and classic, right? They stand out. This is all just kind of the same feeling in like for a score. And I see he did 50 Shades of Grey, which I'm very curious about. Except for, I will say, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is like, I think his pinnacle moment.
Okay.
Because those are great songs. He does great original music and songs and lyrics and all that, which I don't think are in most of his other movies, at least. Anyway, that's my Elfman. We'll talk more at the end, I think.
Yeah, we read his Wikipedia, and I will say he's done a ton of movies, Tanner. So like, I don't feel comfortable like weighing in on the sum of his work because he is so prolific. He's done like there's like 100 movies on that Wikipedia article we were looking at before. So
I just think I don't know. From all the Tim Burton movies has the same soundtrack to me. And I felt like this had the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my take on the Oompa songs there.
No, that's fine. This one was fine. I think my favorite one was the one at the end. We'll get to the Mike TV one just because the visuals were so interesting. But they're all, very kind of 80s influenced, like crazy songs with Deep Roy just dancing around doing like choreographed dance numbers.
What a name, too. Deep Roy.
I know.
Wonka. So he calls his Oompas by just like sticking out his tongue and going like blah, 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 and that's the Oompa call, which I thought was...
Don't care for that. Preferred
strange.
the whistle. Preferred the little flute.
So after this, definitely. Oh yeah, the flute. Oh, we're good. So the kids and the family after this happened are kind of questioning, how did you know, was that like improvised or rehearsed? Because they knew everything about the kid, they knew his name, they had it all rehearsed ahead of time, which is another weird part of this movie, right? Like, did he know, did they do this ahead of time? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they pointed out, like, it's another place where they chose realism over whimsy. And but all the kids are like, well, you had that plan. This was like choreographed. What is going on? And they kind of explain it away by the end, but it's definitely a change from the first one. Like, it's asking the audience to like peek behind the curtain of this like ridiculous over the top adventure, right? Where you're so
right about the realism versus whimsy stuff. Like that is what this movie did wrong, I think. Pointing it out and like making it a thing, like it takes away from it so much.
I think so too, because in the first one it's just like horndogglers and wongschwangslers, and here's a crazy song, and here's this eccentric weirdo, we're just going to let him do eccentric stuff, and as the reader or as the watcher you're just kind of following along. But in this one they're pointing at all the stuff that's weird along the way, and showing
you the hornswogglers, here they are, here it is.
And it's like, look how weird this stuff is. And so I think it loses a little something from that. But again, it's a big swing. They took a huge chance. And a lot of the choices they made, I think, really pay off for me. I really like the ending of this movie. Some of them don't, and they changed the tone to Tim Burton, and Tim Burton and Roald Dahl don't have the same tone. It's just like a different sense of thing.
The beginning and end pieces of this movie are better, but the whole Willy Wonka part is worse, right?
I'm right
Would
there.
You say that?
Yeah. I think the movie is better. I think the main character is worse, and as a result, I think the first movie's better. but I think they did some great things. So it was a fun watch for me.
All right, yeah. So then we get on the boat ride again. Follows a lot of the same beats.
Yep.
Get on this crazy boat. They go through a chocolate river pretty fast. It's not as crazy as the first movie, but they do bring up some of. They talk to Wonka about his childhood, and he can't remember his childhood.
Yeah,
because he claims that I was never as short as you. I was never your size, and my TV's like, you had to have been. You were a child, right?
And he's like,
and
I put on a hat.
Yeah, because I put on a hat to be taller. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a flashback to him as a child, then, because he kind of like zones out and has a memory. And he has a famous dentist father named Wilbur Wonka. So you get
Wonka.
You get a little backstory here with his dad, and he has to wear this massive headgear, like insane headgear, because his dad is obsessed with, teeth.
Perfect
They
teeth.
make it out to be like a crazy dentist, played by Christopher Lee, and he wouldn't let him eat candy or anything. I think it's Halloween at the beginning, and he lets him go trick or treating, and then he comes back and he looks through all his candy and then throws it all in the fireplace.
Yeah. What's that Christopher Lee guy in?
I can't remember.
Is he Lord of the Rings or something?
He is in Lord of the Rings. I think he's Sauron for one. Yeah.
The way he reads the names of his delivery of chocolates, he's got this like really distinguished way of talking, and having him say candy names, lollipops, caramels, was kind of funny.
Does he do the narration for this movie? Do you know who does the narration? He has a funny voice too.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. That honestly might be Danny Elfman, because he does all the singing for the Oompa Loompas.
Oh, yeah.
At the end, it's revealed that it's that, but I'm not sure. We might want to look that up before the end of the ep here. Yeah, so we get a flashback. So in the first movie on the river, it was just this weird psychedelic fever dream. And in this one, we get a flashback to Wonka's childhood, because they're kind of building that out a little bit. We meet his dad and all this other stuff. And then he kind of snaps back. But his dad's totally a jerk. Is really what we're meant to take away from that flashback.
Yeah, he says that some kids are allergic to candy, so that's why he won't let them try it.
Exactly. Yeah, you might be allergic, so I'm going to dump all this in the fire. Real dick move.
So you get, that's, you see a little insight into where Wonka came from. It goes back to the boat ride, and they're passing. So there's a little call out in the first movie where they have like the whipped cream, something cream cheese or something, and hair cream.
Yeah.
So they have the same joke, but it's kind of like these bigger doors along the river ride. And then you get a peek inside of one of them, which I did like this. They're making whipped cream by having a cow strapped up in the air, and the Oompas are like whipping it.
Yeah.
Whipping its belly. And he says you can't have whipped cream without a whipped cow or something. Yeah. So then they go to the invention room next.
That was a Roald Dahl thing, Tanner. That was in the book.
Oh, wasn't there?
Yep.
Oh, good.
All
the good stuff.
Nice moment in here. Yeah, he's a great writer. And then at the end of that ride, we end up back at the inventing room. Same as the last one. In here, we see the everlasting gobstoppers. There's hair toffee, which makes your hair grow very fast. And what else is in the inventing room, Tanner? What did you take on this part of the show?
Yeah, the hair thing. They had somebody that come out and look like Cousin It from the Addams Family. The gobstoppers, of course, they had Oompa Loompas swimming inside of this tank of water. So the gobstoppers would fall in, I assume, hot, so then it would cool down when it hits the water. Just kind of a cool little contraption. And then they got the 3-course meal gum again, and the stick of gum comes out, and of course Violet eats that. Same beat as the first one. Has the blueberry pie at the end, and she turns into a massive blueberry, even more grotesque and fatter than the original.
Which is perfect for a Danny Elfman song, because most of the Oompa Loompa song here has the Oompas like dancing on top of her and rolling her around.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. So here's the style of this one. The first one was done as a Bollywood spectacle. This one says it was done in a 70s funk style. just kind of reading the genres as we go here.
Okay.
And then she's got to go get squeezed again. And you get a little flashback again for Willy Wonka. After his candy had been burned by his father, it shows him eating his first piece of candy ever, and he finds like a little burned piece in the fireplace and eats it. Yeah.
So we have a full-on origin story of why he loves candy so much. It's a rebellious kid whose dad is a dentist.
Yep. And being in that headgear forever couldn't have been good on his upbringing.
Yep.
Just like Michael Jackson in the headgear. No. So then we're moving right along. We got Veruca Salt now. She's going to show up, and it changes from the first movie. I'm thinking it's going to be the same as the book with the squirrels, right?
You are correct. That is how it is.
So yeah, in this one, there are squirrels opening nuts in a little room, just over and over and over again, walnuts. And every time there's a bad nut, they throw it in this chute, down the garbage chute.
I loved the visuals for this room.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. Amazing. Yeah. It's like this giant blue room with hundreds of squirrels sitting at little stools around the outside, and then a big black hole in the middle that they throw the dead nuts down, or the bad nuts down.
Yeah.
And
Veruca's like,
Wonka, it's the only way to get the whole walnut out of a shell is to have a squirrel do it. Nobody else can do it. Not even the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Veruca's dad owns a business that, they open peanuts. And so he tries to relate to him, and then Wonka thinks that her dad is weird. There's a lot of moments like that where he thinks everyone else is weird.
Yeah.
But she's like, Daddy, I want a squirrel. I want a trained squirrel, Daddy. Yeah. So she goes down.
I will say, going back to this, like, it didn't really make sense that there was a golden egg room in the first movie, right? That's not a candy thing.
Yeah.
So like a nut room makes a lot more sense into chocolate factory.
I wonder if it's just like, I don't know how to film this, so they changed it to a golden goose so they could just have some a bad egg sounds better than, to me, that's a more apt description of a bad child, a bad egg, than a bad nut. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But I love this scene. She goes down, wants to get herself one of these squirrels. And it's not for sale, that kind of thing. The same thing. Wonka's not going to sell it. So she goes down and tries to get one, and she's attacked by these squirrels. And they pin her down, and they tap on her head, and it's an empty head. She's a bad nut.
She's a bad nut. They drag her to the hole in the middle and toss her in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get another song here in the style of a bubblegum and psychedelic pop from the 60s. Does that sound apt?
Yeah, that sounds right. This one was the least interesting visuals because it was just in that room and it was just them going around in a circle around the hall.
Yeah, and I guess the dad also gets pushed down the hole during this, right?
He does, yeah. And I thought it was interesting. They changed the mom. The mom is no longer in the picture, and dad's married to a trophy wife in this movie, which is new.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anyway. But, where do we go from there? I think we hop in the glass elevator, yeah?
Yeah, definitely earlier than in the first movie. I'm not sure about the book, but yeah, they hop in this elevator, which really opens up the scope of this factory here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can go, same as the first one, it can go up and down and also slantways and sideways and all the ways.
Does the book have it this early, or does it have all these like sided? Okay.
Book's a lot closer to the first movie through this.
That's so funny because the whole point of this, when it came out, it's like, this is a more faithful adaptation of the book.
Oh, really?
That was like the whole thing. It was like supposed to be more faithful than the original. And I remember like the Roald Dahl family approving it and all that. The estate. So,
yeah. Well, I saw that there was a doll. One of the dolls is a producer on this movie. So yeah, they're clearly.
Was it like Livy or something? Livy Doll?
That might be. One? That might be. Yeah.
Yeah. So they get in this elevator and there's all sorts of buttons. They kind of get a little tour this is all inside the factory. It's flying around, and they fly over this giant mountain with Oompas called Fudge Mountain, and the Oompa Loompas are hiking up Fudge Mountain, and
we see them shearing cotton candy off of some sheep.
I missed that.
It's a really funny visual, and I think the only place that's used. That wasn't from the book or the last movie. We also see a puppet hospital and burn center.
Yeah. So this part was strange. He says that this is quite a new part of the factory. So it's for those puppets from the beginning of the movie that caught on fire. And I think you're supposed to believe that it was built since the start, since that moment in the movie to save those puppets.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
That joke did not land with me at all the first time through. I was so confused why that was there.
I don't even know if it was a joke, but I guess it was. Yeah, the puppet burn center.
Yeah.
But he said, I guess, you're supposed to believe that it was recently built, like in the last 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't catch that joke. Right over my head. Whoosh.
Forgive me if I miss some of these attractions that they see along the way, but they go through like the administration office, and you see Doris, who is another Oompa Loompa woman
with a dress.
And
still deep, Roy.
There's like firework guns just shooting fireworks at targets while they're flying around, so it's kind of a cool visual. They're just kind of going around this factory and seeing all this crazy shit. And then I believe Mike TV gets to choose where to go next, right?
Yeah, he thinks all this is pointless. He hates it. Yeah. He's like, this doesn't have anything to do with chocolate. And so then we get one last flashback, or we get one more flashback to Willy Wonka and his dad. His dad found out about his candy habit, and Willy Wonka basically runs away from home because he wants to pursue his passion of candy, and his dad's a dentist and won't have it. So he runs away to Switzerland and Bavaria.
His dad, says that the candy is stupid and pointless, just like Mike is saying right now. So he's connecting Mike to his dad. And that's why he doesn't like Mike.
Thank you for connecting that. Yeah.
So he hits the television room Mike gets to pick where to go next.
Yep.
And we go to the television room, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Willy Wonka is talking about all these things about how you can transport stuff through the TV, and Mike is like, you literally don't understand science. Everything you're saying now is ridiculous. And he's just like, you're a mumbler. I can't understand you. He keeps telling Mike that he's mumbling, even though he's pretty clear to me. But I think that's just Wonka being like, I don't understand you. You know, I don't know what you're saying. Because Wonka invents things in a more magical way than a science-based way.
Also in the book, most of the times, like Wonka is just dismissive when people ask him questions or like, stop mumbling, I can't hear you. He does that a lot. And in the book, I noticed it was almost always to Mike TV. Like Mike TV would always bring things up and he would just ignore Mike TV. So they brought that back a little bit more here for sure.
So that must be part of the character arc that they're trying to portray with Mike, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Mike sees this teleporter, the same thing as the first movie where they put a large candy bar, because it's got to be large because on TV things get smaller, and it transports into the TV, and you can reach out and grab it. And Mike is just like, don't you realize what you've invented here? Like, you've invented teleportation and you're worried about chocolate.
Yeah, you're using it for chocolate. What an idiot.
Just like, hey, you see a commercial on TV and be like, oh, I want to eat that bar. And then you can. So Mike's like, what about people? And he's like, I don't know. So he runs in, he knocks over a bunch of Oompa Loompas on the way, deliberately. Hops in the transporter, and now Mike is in the TV. Tiny Mike. And you get another Oompa song.
Yeah. And this one puts him, not in the last one, it put him in the TV, but the TV was just black. This one drops Mike into like Planet of the Apes. Like it puts him in
or
the TV show, which I thought was fun.
I think it's 2001: A Space Odyssey, right at the beginning.
Yeah,
the monkeys.
Okay, got you. I misrecognized that movie. My apologies.
I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which is weird because they like react to the things that are coming into it. But
yeah.
Yeah, so then you get another Oompa song. This one's in the style of a hard rock, like hair metal band.
Yeah.
Queen or something.
Or Kiss. Yeah.
And you said this is your favorite song?
I think so. I just like the visuals on it. I thought this set design was really cool, and whoever put this musical number together, I thought it was cool.
And Wonka says, okay, so they tell him to put him in a taffy puller to like stretch him out to like get him back to normal size. And Wonka says there is no other way. It's television, not telephone. It's quite different, which makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense. That's
I like the Wonka logic, the gibberish logic in these. So he says take him to the taffy puller. We'll stretch him back out. And now all the kids are gone.
Real quick there was a funny line that I liked here. He goes, take him to the taffy puller. And the dad goes, the taffy puller? And Willy Wonka goes, hey, that was my idea.
Oh, yeah.
just a stupid joke. But I loved it.
Yeah. And Wonka's just kind of like, well, what happened to the others? He didn't realize that, I don't know. He just is kind of oblivious to things. He's like, what happened to all the others? And it's just Charlie. Charlie wins. He says, hey, you win. They go to the elevator and they hit the up and out button. And this is still like in the first movie, this is where it ends. They just kind of go out of the place and the movie ends. Hey, you inherited this place, but there's a little bit more here.
Yeah.
And this elevator has rocket jets. And what I liked about this movie is once they're outside of the factory, they're flying around, you look down and they're showing all the kids and families leaving. So you do see a little bit of their,
the aftermath.
And the aftermath. Is that in the book at all?
That is in the book. Yeah.
Nice. So does he become like tall? Okay. So they show Augustus Gloop. He's covered in chocolate and his mom's like, Augustus, please don't eat your fingers, but I taste so good. So he's covered in chocolate. You get the blue girl. She's like way more flexible than ever now because I guess she's been expanded and now she's smaller. So now her body can do way more things. She's just like somersaulting all the way out, right?
Yeah. That's new to this movie, but in the book she does stay blue, just like
she does
here.
Stay blue.
She does stay blue. Yeah.
And then the Veruca Salt is covered in trash with her dad.
Yep.
And she's like, Daddy, I want a flying elevator. And he actually stands up to her for the first time ever and says,
finally puts his foot down. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing you're getting is a bath, and that's final. Yeah. And tell us about Mike TV.
And Mike TV went to the taffy stretcher, and he is now super skinny and like 10 feet tall. He's
it's like
he's
flat.
a slender man. Yeah,
like he was crushed by a steamroller or something. It's a cartoon.
Exactly.
Was that in the book as well?
And that part was also in the book. The taffy stretcher was a rolled doll. Yep. Yeah. And then this was where the last movie ended, but in the book and in this movie, the glass elevator goes to Charlie's house, crashes through the roof. Everybody is surprisingly cool with that here.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, hey, what's up? Yeah.
Well, their house is pretty shitty anyways.
I guess that's fair, but they
like, damn, another giant hole in our roof.
Yeah. And this is where Willy Wonka announces he's going to give the chocolate factory to Charlie. In the book, Charlie agrees. Everybody goes and lives happily ever after. But here in the movie, I thought they made a good change. Basically, Willy Wonka says you have to leave your family and come live with me. And Charlie says, no, family is the thing that's most important here. It's a real Fast and the Furious type of logic. It's all about family.
I did just write family down, and I also thought of Fast and the Furious. Yeah. They show him deciding, hey, I need to get an air that through a flashback. And he's getting his semi-annual haircut by an Oompa, and he finds a single gray hair. And that's when he says, I must find a hair.
A hair.
A hair. That was the air joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not a good joke, but it's in here.
it's in there. And yeah, Charlie says no, of course not. I love my family. He won't go. He declines the invitation.
Uh-huh.
And Wonka's just like, this is so weird and unexpected. Yeah, and it kind of gives a little wrap up. The family is now better than they'd ever been for whatever reason.
The dad got a new job at the toothpaste factory. Now he repairs the machine that took his job. So that's gone full circle.
That is pretty good. And Joe is now getting out of bed more regularly. And then it flashes to Willy Wonka again, and he's in therapy with an
Oompa Loompa, of course.
Oompa Loompa, of course. Yeah. And he comes to the conclusion that he feels terrible, so his candy has become terrible because he makes whatever he feels, and then he realizes that he's made a big mistake because he feels bad, and so he goes back and makes amends with the kid, right? Oh no!
Yep. Charlie has now taken a job as a shoe shine boy, and all of a sudden, a stranger sits down and is asking Charlie about Willy Wonka and what he thinks of him. And Charlie knows it's Willy Wonka, so he says he has a terrible haircut, and he met him once but didn't like him by the end. And Willy gets indignant and reveals himself, and at this point, this is all new. So they go meet. Yeah, so Charlie agrees to go with Willy to meet his dad, right? So we need to wrap up that last storyline, right?
Yeah, he goes with him to meet his father. He's, says, "Hey, you got to go talk to your dad." And he's like, "Hell no, I'm not going to do that." And Charlie offers to go with him. So they do that. They go to the dentist place. They take the elevator all the way there, of course. And his dad's dentist office is just like in the middle of nowhere, covered in snow. And he didn't recognize. Okay, so they get in there and they see all these. He's just having a regular checkup from his dad, and there's pictures all over the wall, newspaper clippings of Willy Wonka and like opening the factory. So it shows that his dad is paying attention to his son, and yet somehow still he didn't recognize him at all, even though he's like a massive public figure, right?
Yeah, until he checks his teeth.
I recognize those bicuspids anywhere or something. Mm-hmm. And so then he realizes that's Charlie, Willy. And they hug. Everything is good. And now Wonka and the Buckets are best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a nice little dual reveal at the very end of this thing. The Charlie was given the factory one more time, and this time he accepted because he was allowed to bring his family. And they moved their rickety little house into the chocolate room. So now they live just as they were, but inside the factory walls, and they have all the food that they can eat. The narrator this whole time, go ahead.
Yeah, he's inside, they're having family dinner, and Wonka is there, so they're basically family now. And they're kind of like spitballing ideas for candies, and he says, "What about these little raspberry kites with licorice instead of strings?" Which I like that idea. And one of the grandmas says, "You smell like peanuts. I like peanuts." And he says, "You smell like old people and soap." I like it. Yeah. So, yeah. And what's the big reveal at the end there, Chris?
Oh, the big reveal. Yeah, they're living in the factory. And then also the narrator this whole time has this crazy, deep, like, kind of voice. And the narrator this whole time has been one of the Oompa Loompas.
It's Deep Roy.
Life had never been sweeter. And then it cuts to credits.
Yeah, that's the movie.
That's the movie.
We watched it.
We did. And I still don't know if I know what I think about it.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a toughie.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we kind of hit on it as we were going through. I think they took a lot of big swings, and a lot of them hit for me. Like, it's a beautiful movie. I love what Tim Burton brought. And I think they did a good job of kind of updating a movie from 1971 to like the sensibilities of movies more recently, but like Gene Wilder that put in an all-time performance in the first one, and Johnny Depp is not the same to me. And it lost a lot of the whimsy because they went realistic with it. And so like they spent a lot of the movie like pointing out the things that are ridiculous about Willy Wonka's factory instead of just letting us enjoy them. And I think that change, I think that change is a big one in the way that this movie feels to watch. Yeah, I don't know. So I think that it's a fascinating update on this franchise. It is completely different from the first one in the way that it feels and the way that it looks. And there's parts of that I loved and parts of that I did not care for. Yeah. What did you think? What's your kind of takeaway here?
Yeah, very, very similar. I enjoyed watching it. I think I was kind of fascinated to watch all the differences.
Yeah.
It pales in comparison in every single way to the original to me. I will say the opening and end maybe are a little bit effective with the family and stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit better. That being said, I think Tim Burton, it's a great choice. Like it just makes so much sense for him to make a movie like this, you know? Same with the Alice in Wonderland, which I thought was a lot worse than this even.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think the music is so iconic and so good. In the first movie, like this music is not good. More or less. I mean, it's fine. I don't like the Oompa Loompa songs. I would never listen to, but the original movie, I could put those songs on and like enjoy it. You know?
Yeah.
And again, the Oompa Loompa changes are just baffling and bizarre, and the Willy Wonka changes are baffling and bizarre. I love that you brought up the Michael Jackson thing. I honestly think that is what it is. I want to research it a little bit.
Okay.
But it makes too much sense.
But it makes him so much less likable as a character, I think. You know, like he's in on the joke in the first movie, but he's the butt of the joke a lot of the time here, and it's not the same.
Oh yeah, no, it's not the same at all. Yeah. Again, like you were saying, the biggest problem here is that they call attention to all these things rather than let you just be wrapped up in the whimsy of it all, right? They make it a realistic thing, and that kind of ruins it because a movie like this doesn't need to be that grounded. I mean, maybe with just only with the family part, but everything else, like the Wonka stuff, needs to be mysterious.
Yeah, it's got to make you feel like a kid. You know what I mean? Like, just ungrounded nonsense. And I don't know.
And I did see that Gene Wilder kind of talked about this movie a bit, and it says he was critical of the Tim Burton style, but he likes Johnny Depp a lot and thought he was actually a really good choice. Maybe not his decision of how to portray it, but Johnny Depp is really good. He says Depp is mysterious always and magical. And I do think there is something about him that he was a good choice to play him. I don't know if the route that he went was good, even though I do feel like he put in a good performance just as like completely disappearing into the character. I just don't think the direction for the character was correct. You know what I mean?
Totally fair. Yeah. And it really makes me curious about this new Timothée Chalamet one, because I didn't think so much of how I felt about the movie is tied up in who is Willy Wonka and how is he weird? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm so curious about
Chalamet doesn't seem weird enough, right?
Yeah, he seems too normal. And I think that's part of Johnny Depp's problem too, is he's such a normal person. But
Johnny Depp, I feel like is a weirdo to me.
Yeah, he's like,
I mean, playing
he's so
like
cool though.
Is he?
I don't know.
I guess he was. You're right. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I feel like he was always playing like offbeat stuff, you know, like Hunter S. Thompson and stuff.
So
he always had this little bit of weird to him. And doing a lot of Tim Burton, you know, Edward Scissorhands was way before this, and but Chalamet just seems like so. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I heard some of the music already. I listened to a song from the soundtrack, and they recreated the first movie's music. And it's very like basic sounding. from what I heard. It's like it. I just fear it's going to be very mainstream feeling. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Like they're trying not to piss anybody off. They're not going to take any of the chances that they took in this movie. That kind of thing.
Too agreeable. Yeah, like this movie did not care about that at all.
No.
It still made a buttload of money. So yeah, this movie was $150 million budget, and it made 475 worldwide.
Oh wow!
So it was a big hit, one of the highest grossing movies of the year, the highest grossing Roald Dahl movie by far.
Yeah.
So it was a hit for sure. I think it doesn't have the long lasting appeal. People were didn't love it, but a lot of people saw it when it came out. And it was nominated for Best Costume Design, the Academy Awards.
Honestly, should have won that. The costumes are awesome in this movie.
I'm trying to think. Are they?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe not. The glasses, the way they dress up the Oompa Loompas, like, I don't know. The visual stuff is the fun stuff here for me. Like the Tim Burton part is the part that I think is the most successful.
You're right. That it was. I mean, there is a lot of cool stuff in it. It is a little bit too much. Like the Oompa Loompa costumes. I don't know. I didn't care for.
That's fair. Yeah.
The winner that year was Memoirs of a Geisha.
Oh, I never saw that. Okay.
I have no idea either. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else you want to talk about on that movie? Well, I mean, there is more to talk about, but I'm all over the place today.
No, you're good, man. I think I'm ready to jump over to Milk.
No, we ain't there yet. No,
we ain't there yet.
No.
All right.
No,
where are we?
Should there have been a sequel to this movie?
I'm not sure. I kind of think no. And I feel like both this movie and the last one are staying away because Roald Dahl wrote another book.
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes place in a chocolate factory. So I'm excited to read that next week, but I kind of have the sense that it doesn't really fit in the same like movie universe with this one. Because I think it's weird. I think it's going to be a weird book.
Do you know, let's see, that one came out. So that one came out, looks like after the first movie. I don't know if that makes any difference for it. That might factor into the direction of the movie or of the book.
Yeah.
Like he said, fuck that movie. I'm going a different direction.
Yeah, that could be. So I'm curious to see, but I mean, I think they did a good job wrapping this movie up in a way that the last movie didn't do. They didn't spend the time with the family. They didn't like resolve it quite as well, but this one really felt like kind of complete at the end because they added that little bit of story. And it felt like they weren't shooting for a sequel. Like they just wanted to make this and be done.
Yeah.
I don't know what a sequel would be. Honestly, like Charlie's still at the chocolate factory. Maybe he has a bunch of kids that come in or come through. I just don't know what it would look like unless they made one based on the following book, which I don't think has anything to do with the chocolate factory.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm with you there. It is refreshing, I guess, for them to make a movie at all and not have it set up for a sequel. That's almost. I mean, that like never happens. So that's cool, and yeah, I don't think it should have had one, and even though they probably wanted one in some way, I'm sure that because of the money that it made, it was like let's do it again.
Yeah, run it back.
More. Yeah, run it back. Chris, do you have any MVPs or beef with this movie? Let's talk about that.
MVP. I think MVP is Tim Burton for me. I liked the visuals, and I thought that it was well put together in a lot of ways. And beef. I mean, Johnny Depp, man, you're following in the footsteps of one of the great performances in children's movies, and I don't know, I didn't care for it personally, but I know I'm sure there's people who liked his performance a lot. How about you?
Yeah, MVP would probably be why not Tim Burton? I think just because I did like the set design and stuff like that, and it does move at a nice pace, and I think he was a great choice for a world like this, definitely.
Yeah.
Although it's like, is it too like gothic? Is it too Tim Burton-y? But I feel like this was the beginning of his like big budget Tim Burton-y style in that sense, where he had the Alice in Wonderland where it just became this kind of too much, you know what I mean? And I think this was the beginning of that.
Yeah.
For him. But let's see, the Beef, I'm going to say I don't think Johnny Depp did a bad job, not as good as Wilder, but I think the Beef would have to be the Oompa Loompas, maybe.
That's fair.
I think it's honestly the music or lack of the music. I think the music for me makes the first one in such a way. I mean, so many things make it, but the music is great.
Yeah.
And I know it's not part of the original book, so why include it? But and want to do.
It adds a lot of silliness. Different. It makes the story unbelievable.
And it's good. It's like really good. And the music in this movie is like the score's fine. Overarching, just like the score throughout is fine, but the Oompa Loompa songs are not good.
They hit you in the face. They really want to stand out.
Yeah,
the
totally.
Oompa Loompa songs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we also ask on this pod, is this timeless or a time capsule? And I'm gonna say, even though I didn't love it, I think it's kind of a timeless movie because of the fact that it exists on its own. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel outdated or anything like that. And some people probably really like it, and you can watch it in any era. Like this movie doesn't take place in any specific era, Right. It feels like old-timey London, but then it has modern stuff in it. And people also, it doesn't take place in a real place either. It's called like Wonkaville or something. So they don't even tell you what country it's in or what, because some of the people have British accents, some of them don't. So I think it's timeless in that sense that it's like it doesn't age because it exists in its own world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think on that question?
I mean, I feel like this one was more time capsule-y to me, just because I feel like it represents. Tim Burton is such an auteur, and he has all the same people make all the same movies. This movie also felt like it was made like around when we were in college, like it just kind of, it's like big budget. It's not a superhero movie yet, like it feels of that time a little bit, but the visuals are kind of timeless. And the story is great. I think it holds up. So
the story,
I don't know, maybe a little bit of both for me. Maybe a little bit of both. I think it's a little more time capsule-y just because of all the Johnny Depp, Tim Burton stuff. But yeah, it's a timeless story, and they did so many of the visual things I thought were so fun in this movie that it certainly has some timeless qualities. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Let's see.
I'm a wuss and I won't pick, so I'm going to push. Is my answer on that one.
That's fine. Yeah, it's hard. Some of these questions. I mean, there's always gray area. It's not black or white. One quick little tidbit. We did talk last week about they should have done like a Wonka Bar golden ticket, and they did that for this movie. So,
okay.
We're not the first ones to think of that idea. But yeah, so they did like a Wonka bar with golden tickets in it, or Wonka candy with golden tickets in it. So lots of different types of candy had this. But it wasn't tickets to the movie. Maybe that was one of the prizes, but they had just all sorts of giveaways. So, they're giving away trips to Europe and tours of an animation studio, trip to a sports camp, shopping sprees, $10,000 cash, among other prizes, I believe.
That's fun.
Which I think is a great promotion. Definitely.
I love getting kids hooked on gambling early. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Get those kids excited about something they're not going to win.
It was pre-loot box in the video game world. So, but yeah, I don't know. I assume there's a lot more than 5 of these golden tickets. There's probably a couple thousand of these winners, and some of them are small, some of them are big. But yeah, that's kind of a cool feature. And that's all I really got for tidbits. I kind of talked about the other stuff as I went. Now I think I'm ready for milk. What about you?
Yeah, let's jump in there.
Let me start because mine's a lot more brief. I think.
Please,
you've got some cool stuff. So yeah, I my thing this week is I played some of the video games. I'm only going to talk mainly about one of them today. So there's a really old, shitty game from 1985 called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it came out for the ZX Spectrum, which is like...
What? What is that?
The ZX Spectrum.
You're fucking with me. That's not a thing.
It's an 8-bit home computer system,
and
I've played a few. I've played a few games from that in our series, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm a bad listener too.
No, I mean, it was an afterthought, but it's just like a little PC keyboard device. It's just like an early computer.
Okay.
And I played. Let's see, the Highlander game. One of the Highlander games was on there. The Duel game that I played, and then. One of the RoboCop games was released for that as well, an early arcade game. So it came out from that. It's based on the book. This is where I realized that there's squirrels and not eggs. I got to this one part of it, and the Veruca Salt part, and there's squirrels, and I'm like, this is before I watched the movie. I played it. I'm like, why are there squirrels in this?
What is this?
Like they changed it from Golden Goose. That's stupid. But now that I see that was the original vision. Anyway, so it's very basic, really crappy. It's just played with a keyboard. You have 2 buttons, left, right, or maybe 3, and then like action, I guess. But you have each of the 5 kids, or each of the 4 kids. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts off with that, and you just have Augustus Gloop, Violet Beauregard, Veruca Salt, and Mark TV, and they each have a little mini game. So Augustus Gloop's mini game is a kid goes into a tube, and it's kind of this little thing going through a tube, and you go around and you try to move the tube in different directions to try to collect all the W's and all the Wonka.
Okay. Okay.
So you try to just move it and move the tubes around as it goes left to right without it falling out of the end or squirting out of the top. And it's extremely hard, and it's really shitty to play. And I didn't finish that part of it. But then I went to the Violet Beauregard part, and it's this part I did finish.
You just chew gum.
No,
push
unfortunately.
A for chew gum.
Just like press it as fast as you can, just do faster.
Yeah.
No, you there's blueberries bouncing around the screen, and it's this little thing with like a shield. It looks like it's supposed to be Violet, I guess, but you're just like bumping the balls, kind of like Pong, and you're moving this thing and trying to get all the blueberries into a basket. And that's that. Which I did play through, and I finally finished. And then Veruca Salt, we got a bunch of squirrels running around and a bunch of baskets. And you got to see, like, I'll post the video on our YouTube, and you can watch me struggle with this shit.
Yeah.
This one is just a bunch of little red squirrels running around, and you're just going up and down, and you can drop little bombs to kill the squirrels, or little somethings, just like a little item, and the squirrels die, and they get faster and faster the more you kill until you kill them all.
Okay.
And then the Mike TV one is, I couldn't even figure out what was going on. I didn't finish it. But it's like a bunch of little Wonka Vision cameras that just kill you, and you're trying to go along a track and collect more W's. So basically, you have these 4 mini games. You can practice them, and then you can press 5 on your keyboard, and you go to play game. And you play all of them all the way through, and I think that's what you're supposed to do there. But then there's a part 2 that only can be reached if you finish all that, which I was able to just play anyway. Just I put in the part 2 disc.
Yeah.
And it's 48 rooms.
Into your Spectrum XZ, right?
I plugged in my Spectrum XZ into my through my HDMI cord. And this is this is more like just a regular platformer. There's candy kind of flying around and platforms you got to jump from without dying. And I believe you're Charlie, kind of making your way through this dungeon and just going through without getting killed. And there's 48 rooms, and I made it through 3 of them. And I got to a room that's called the Pink Corridor, and it asked for a code, a text code, and I'm supposed to type in some words. And I have no idea how I'm supposed to figure that out. And I looked online for any walkthroughs or any sort of information, and nobody has gotten past. I think I've gotten further than anyone else in the world in this game, because
let's call the Guinness World Record, people, dude.
On YouTube there is somebody playing it, and it's just like, I'm going to play this game until I die, basically is what the YouTube channel is called. And he gets to that stage and he dies before where I died. And he stops playing. So he doesn't get to the pink corridor at all. And there's no walkthroughs anywhere.
And you beat that guy, at least.
I got like a room or two further than him. Yeah. Which, I had to like save and reload a bunch. But I got through a couple. And then you just get to this point where somehow you're supposed to have figured out a code. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I wanted to cheat my way through it and find it online, but I couldn't find anything.
But nobody had done it.
Nobody had done it. So there's that. I started to play a game, which we'll talk more about next week once I play more. But it's a game adaptation of this movie for the GameCube that came out in like the same year, basically when the movie came out.
Oh, cool.
And it has a lot of the same voice actors, the same narrator. A lot of the same voice actors except for Johnny Depp. And
he was probably too famous to do a video game, even if it's for his own movie,
Definitely.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'll talk more about that movie next week. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, man. Let's see. I finished the first Roald Dahl book this week. Yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting to read. I feel like I've spent so much time with this story in the last 10 days. I've watched 2 movies and read a book, and they're all the same story, The book was great. I really enjoyed it. There were some different parts of the story that I wanted to highlight. Yeah, there was a room. We talked about it a little bit before that was whipped, all shapes and sizes. That was for whipping cream. There were beans rooms, so there was cocoa beans, jelly beans, and has beans was the joke. So has beens. Yeah. The Oompa Loompas never say Oompa Loompa Loopity Doo in their songs. So that was something they came up with for the movie, I'm assuming. And then kind of like this movie, there's no Slugworth plot. Do you remember in the first movie, they're trying to trick the kids into giving up the everlasting gobstopper? That's not in the book either. And the fizzy lifting drinks is a room that they go by, but they don't actually go inside. And so the scene in the Gene Wilder movie, well, that's the only spot you're going to find that too. So yeah, it was kind of interesting, just kind of reading through and finding the spot that the stuff that's here, the stuff they use in both, the stuff that's nowhere. We've talked about the nut room. And yeah, we see the kids at the end. We already kind of talked about that too. Yeah, and the ending in the book is kind of between the 2 movies, because we do see all the kids at the end with their blue faces, and Mike TV's all stretched out, and Augustus Gloop is covered in chocolate. But there's none of that family wrap up. They go to the house and they tell them that they're going to move to the factory, and the family's really happy, and that's just kind of the end. So the book is kind of splits the difference on the end between the 2. But I will say the new movie did a better job of including a lot of the detours. So going to the Indian prince who built the Castle of Chocolate, that was in the book. They left that out, right? They added in a lot of the detours. Even though I think the first movie did a better job of telling certain parts of the story, and I think it kept the tone a little bit better from the book. Yeah, that was kind of my notes on that.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was great. It's whimsical. It's a kid's book. It's it's really fun. He's really good with words, just Augustus Gloop and Veruca Salt. Those are fantastic character names. And he just loads this book with funny little turns of phrase and things that are really fun to say.
Isn't there
it's great.
A musician, Veruca Salt, or a band?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's fun. I'm looking forward to the next one because I think it goes in a very different direction, the second book. And apparently he wrote the first chapter, Roald Dahl did, of a third Willy Wonka book that you can read if you go to the Roald Dahl Museum. You can read the first chapter of the third Charlie and the Chocolate Factory book. So I might try and find that if it's available. I don't know if it's out there on the
You
internet.
might try to go to the Roald Dahl Museum.
Yeah, just bop over to Europe real quick and see what's going on. But yeah, that was most of my milk. I also, I also wanted to share. You and I spent a couple minutes going through the Danny Elfman Wikipedia, and he's a fascinating human being. Just like he dated Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and it was actually Tim Burton contacted him because he liked his band in the '80s and brought him on to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So these guys have been joined at the hip forever, you know. Just kind of wanted to share that at the end too, because I thought that stuff was pretty interesting.
What's your review of Oingo Boingo?
Well, it's
does it
anyone
hold up?
listening. I don't know. Check out the one that I always liked that my dad would always listen to was called Boingo. So if you want to listen to some new wave '80s music, I'm going to listen to it this week, and we can talk Boingo next week.
Talking Boingo, our side pod. Cool. Well, thanks for reading that book. That's awesome. I'm excited to hear about that next one too.
Yeah,
to see what holds up. And I'm also excited to see the new Wonka movie. What's your scale of excitement out of 10 for this movie?
Like 7.
7?
I want to see what they do. 8.
Where
9,
was it? Where was it
at?
Before we decided to do this for the podcast? Would you have been excited to see Wonka?
No, I liked this Tim Burton movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to hate this movie. Yeah. And
okay.
I found it pretty fun to watch, even if it wasn't perfect. And I'm really excited to see this new one, whether it sucks or is great. I'm excited to see what decisions they make and where they take it.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited to get the Wonka burger from IHOP. I'm excited for more purple pancakes.
Yep.
I'm gonna sneak a bunch of purple pancakes into the Wonka premiere.
Yeah, I love that.
Strapped to my back, of course. Wish you were here, Chris.
I wish I was there too.
Me. Yeah.
Is that just because I have a bigger back to strap food to, or?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
A lot of pancakes will fit on that back.
More square footage. Yeah, that's me, man.
So stick around. For next week's episode, it's going to be the season finale. I think we're going to take a little break after that. Wonka's just too much for us. We need to digest, if you will. Or
you could say we learned our lesson from this movie, and we're valuing the importance of family over these holidays.
Hey, good call.
Hey. Yeah,
I'll see my family for a good 12 hours and then have to go back to work. That's all right, though. Let's see. Yeah, if you are following along, make sure to take the survey and fill it out for this movie, for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and we'll read the results next week. Anything else you want to say, Chris? Besides Moo?
No, that's it. Let's get to the Moo.
Let's get to the Moo. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Moo.